It's Charter Local Edition. Brad Pomerance here. We are in the Inland Empire in Riverside. We are joined by Angelov Farooq. He is a new member of the Riverside Unified School Board. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Brad.
I want to hear all about your new position on the RUSD.
Absolutely.
Tell me about it.
Well, I'm really excited. We just went to trustee areas for the first time.
Oh, right. I forgot that, yes.
And so I'm representing the downtown Riverside area, East Side, Casablanca, by the University of California, Riverside area. So
and I have to think it's particularly gratifying to represent this community, given that you went to high school yourself in the area, not in RUSD, but be that as it may, you're local, you're native.
Absolutely.
You know, so these are these are your people.
Absolutely. So I'm born and raised in the Inland Empire. I grew up specifically in Hoopa Valley, which is
right next door.
Yeah, right next door.
So what do you think, though, of these school board meetings? I mean, are they mind-numbing, or you get stuff done? What's your sense?
Sure. So I think I'm coming at an interesting time because, right now we're discussing the possibility of a school bond, for example.
Right.
And it's the first time in 15 years. So there's a lot of interesting buzz and activity.
And you're a professor yourself.
I teach it, yes.
You teach at UCR.
Yes.
So, I mean, education's part of your DNA, I guess you could say.
Yeah, education's been a big part of my whole life. Right. Getting my doctorate from USC, but then staying connected at UCR.
I want to talk about one of your passions, and that's educational equity. Mm-hmm. And it's just hard to deny, sir, that as much as we have tried to decrease the achievement gap, it continues to persist. We look at the recent results of the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, the new standardized test, and the achievement gap is huge. I mean, we look at Latinos, for example, those that met standards in English, 32%, whereas those of Anglo descent, 61%. We look at African Americans, 28% met standards. Asian Americans, yet 72% meet standards. So what's going on here?
So I think a lot of it is a socioeconomic factor.
And can I interrupt? Because
sure,
your point's extremely well taken. When we look at economically disadvantaged scores of any race, 31% met standards in English and 21% met standards in math. Those will kind of line up with some of the categories of color.
Absolutely, and that's the thing is, growing up in a single parent household and my mother raising us, I was a qualified freelance student.
Oh, you were.
So I can understand that, from a Maslow's hierarchy of needs perspective, when families are dealing with all kinds of issues about getting food on the table, it's harder to know how to prepare your kids and keep them engaged throughout the schools.
So I have to ask you, given that you work with RUSD, I mean, this is a district that really serves a whole span of economic diversity. I mean, you got some very wealthy families living in Riverside, and you got some families that are really struggling. And so how do you serve the needs of those two ends?
Well, one of the things that we're really doing is getting a lot more involved at the community neighborhood level. So I'll give you an example. We started a family resource center last year, and we served over 4,000 families, and it has to do with not just educational, academic related resources to families, but all kinds of a clearinghouse of a lot of other things that might impact families. To give you an example, just since I started, we actually now have set up satellite offices, one in the East Side. Temporarily at Longfellow, it's going to move to Bobby Bonds on the East Side. The other one has been established at the Villegas Community Center in Casablanca. But
are these areas more challenged for our viewers statewide?
Absolutely. They're predominantly a minority population, lower socioeconomic.
Right.
And so we're bringing these resources to the community neighborhood level. So that's been important.
The flip side, though, and the question may seem contrarian, but a bored, bright kid is a tyrant. And so how do you make sure that as you're spending and paying a lot of attention to those that are challenged, that you're also challenging the other end? Because if you're smart and you're bored, forget it. You're destroying the classroom.
So a couple of things. One is there's been a big shift towards personalized learning. And so that gives a lot of educators, teachers, an opportunity to be able to cater through technology and other things, the more advanced children that are doing further along. But we're also really been doing a district-wide effort on STEM. And
let's talk about STEM, sir, because I know it is a huge passion of yours. And I was inspired to read about the first ever formal partnership nationwide between any school district and an organization called Girls Who Code.
Yes.
Got two daughters, 8th grade, 6th grade. Amen to that. My 8th grader is actually in a science class, not in RUSD, that is learning coding.
Great.
And so tell me about how you connected up with Girls Who Code, and what is it?
Sure. So it's a national nonprofit headquartered in New York. The founder is a personal friend of mine. Her name is Reshma Sujani.
Fantastic.
And that's how the connection happened. Right. And so, you know, there's a huge gender equity issue. I mean, these are the types of jobs that we want to train for future workforce.
Can I tell you,
Sure.
There's no question there's a gender issue in terms of the sciences, but I was at dinner last night with the husband of a colleague of mine here at Charter, and he was explaining how they work in automation. They can't find workers. They have jobs, they just they can't match the job with the skills that these folks have. I mean, we desperately need folks with this type of background, this coding background.
Absolutely.
Girls or boys.
Right.
Yeah. And this is good.
Yeah, and I want to preface this by saying this is not our only effort. We've partnered with Google and others.
It's all good.
No, but the reason I think this is important is when it's like 81% to 19% gender gap, we do need to make a special emphasis here.
Okay, so let's talk about this program for those of our friends watching who live in Riverside, because there are 2 programs that you're adopting, a summer program and some clubs. Tell us about those.
Sure, so the summer immersion program, Girls Who Code is sponsoring those costs as part of the partnership. And so young girls, we're going to do a lot of specific outreach to Latinas and African American girls in particular, but young girls will be able to spend, I think that's like 6 to 8 weeks over the summer, fully, we're even covering the transportation costs.
Fantastic.
So,
and then the clubs as well?
Yeah, the clubs, we're looking at one after school programs. That hasn't launched yet officially. The summer immersion program is starting this summer. We're in the process of implementing some pilot schools at RUSD, but we're also looking at even integrating within the daytime curriculum as well.
So it does beg the question, and we've been discussing this whole notion of girls not pursuing STEM, either in high school or college, you know, as a college teacher, lecturer, professor, whatever you are yourself. This helps, but what else can we do on this question of girls and STEM?
So I just think, you know, messaging is important, and I think, again, exposing at the earliest date as possible. Our partnership with Girls Who Code and our coding efforts in general, we're starting as early as elementary school. And so just getting people, you know, acclimated and familiar about how this can be very exciting, and a lot of times you don't even need formal degrees to be able to get high quality jobs.
You mentioned the messaging, and the messaging can come not just from the teacher that may not intend to be messaging that way, but the students. I mean, again, I said it, I got an 8th grader and a 6th grader, and you know, smart girls, you know, are they hip and cool? I don't know. You know, I don't know.
Well,
it's painful.
And that's the thing is we try to foster a cultural environment where it's okay to be nerdy, it's okay to be smart.
There's no question that nerd is cool now. I mean, it wasn't when we were growing up, and I got to tell you, I was a super nerd. Not that I'm that smart, but there's we have started to see that, you see that shift, but it just seems like it's the nerdy guy. You know, what about the nerdy girl? You know, are they cool yet?
Well, it's something we need to work on regardless. And we don't see it as, you know, arriving at a specific goal. This is obviously a continuum, it's a process, but I think we're making a lot of good inroads. And part of it is young girls seeing people like themselves, whether they're as teachers or people in the field, engaging them and sharing with them that, you know, that this can work, that this is something that is an exciting path.
His name is Angelov Farooq. He is a new member of the Riverside Unified School Board. My name is Brad Pomerance. If you want to watch additional episodes of Charter Local Edition, please join us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Charter Local Edition. We are in Riverside today in the Inland Empire. This is Charter Local Edition.